anxiety about counselling training or your course or taking a course? What do we need to know?
I think we need to know that I don't think it's unusual for anyone to feel a little anxious or a great amount of anxiety about going back to school effectively or going back to take classes. I was absolutely scared to death when I walked back into a class. I was 40 years old. I had a reasonably successful career as a commercial manager. And I walked through the door and I had to work very hard at not being five. And it took a good few weeks for me to realise that I wasn't five. I think I was 40 from what I can remember, and to settle down. And that was because, without going too deeply into it, my experience of school wasn't the best. I went to school in the 60s and the 70s where, shall we say, educators weren't very enlightened, and pedagogy was more about how often he could hit you rather than actually trying to teach someone, especially someone who's neurodivergent. That just didn't exist. This is really for all those folk out there who may be listening, thinking, I'd love to take a counselling course, but I don't know, I just don't want to go back to school again. And I think the first message is that you're likely to meet people. The teachers are going to be like people like me and Ken, very ordinary people. They're going to be very ordinary people, and they're going to be modern day people. They're not going to be the kind of, I know you're a Pink Floyd fan, Ken, and one of the songs, Another Brick in the Wall. It's not going to be like that. That's what I would hope, Ken.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, the tune is playing in my head now. Another Brick in the Wall. Absolutely love that. I'll go straight to the video where the education system is depicted by a conveyor belt of all people with exactly the same face being made into mincemeat, dropping into a mincer and being made all the same. And it kind of reflects what you've shared about how education might have been at one stage. It's very different. But I also wanted to broaden this topic because I know that most of our listeners are not just considering going to do a counselling course. You're doing a counselling course, or you may be quite advanced in the counselling course. And I think that this topic applies to you too, because that anxiety is not just that first step into counselling training. It can come up and show itself again and again. It can come up when you can be towards the end of your training and you now need to do your skills evaluation. I know that brings up anxiety. Having an assignment referred can bring up anxiety. So anxiety is something that goes hand in hand with counselling, and it goes hand in hand with life. We need to accept that that is part of life. And very often we're going to see clients that come in because they experience anxiety in certain aspects of their life. And it's horrible. That energy of anxiety is so unpleasant. And it starts off cognitive processes that start saying, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not going to fit in, this is not going to work for me. And it can be a really negative, horrible spiral to find yourself in. So first of all, we acknowledge that it exists and we normalize it by saying, yeah, it's common. I certainly felt it. I know Rory felt it at some stage. I think every student that we ever came into contact with at some level had anxiety around their studies or the work that they were doing or the project they had to submit or the academic writing or the case study or the skills session at some stage in that process. And I guess there are mechanisms in place because counselling, as we've said so often, is unlike many other courses. For instance, if you went and did a bricklaying course, your anxiety might be, can I build the wall straight? But in counselling, it feels higher stakes at times. And there are mechanisms built in to counselling training, one of them being personal development groups, Rory. So those thinking of training, we can tell you about personal development groups. Of course, if you're already training, then you know what a personal development group is. But how might we use a personal development group, Rory, if we're feeling anxiety around an aspect of our learning?
I think we may use the group, and just to explore what a personal development group is, it's usually a group of students facilitated by a tutor who sit and talk about really what's going on in their life. It's a bit like pre-therapy, really. It's not therapy per se, but it gives students a chance to reflect maybe on what the theory is, how the theories inform them of their own life or what might be going on for them, to give them a voice and also to gain, hopefully, support from the wider group to realise that they're not the only person. And also for you to speak to people and be able to say how you experience them. I think that's really important. And that's what a personal development group is. So I would say speak your truth. If you feel anxious, if you feel there's an anxiety that's going on for you, then voice it. I often say once it's voiced, it becomes slightly externalized. That's how therapy works. You have it all built up inside you speak about it, you take it from yourself and put it outside, and then it becomes somehow less powerful. It's something that could be seen through a different prism or at a different aspect. Which brings me to my other point about counselling training. You mentioned bricklaying. The thing with bricklaying is it's an external course. You are never asked, I don't think, from my recollection of the curricula, what you're feeling about a brick is or how you feel about the mortar. You're just told how to make it and put them together and what a straight wall looks like or what a decorative wall looks like. Same with hairdressing. With counselling, you're really asked to talk about yourself. And I think the biggest anxieties that come up for students is where they have to do maybe personal statements or talk about the personal development journey, because sometimes just writing it down can be quite triggering. So that is why it's really important that tutors are supportive and they explain the likely processes that you might go through while you're taking the course. Ideally, I would say this should be dealt with at intake. Certainly we did, Ken. We told people exactly what to expect, whether they understood it or not, because telling people what something's like and then experiencing it are two different things. But I think that it is a road of learning that is like no other. And part of that is sometimes about managing your own anxiety.
Yeah. And I like how you said you use the personal development group to speak about it. Share your truth was the words you used, Rory. And that is incredibly powerful because anxiety wants to hide away, wants to make you different from, oh, I don't know if I'm academically robust enough to do this. I'm not the same as the other people. I'm different and I'm going to feel this energy that we call anxiety because of that. And I want to hide it away. I don't want to be seen. Imposter syndrome is all based in this, in a held anxiety that is hidden away. Any minute now, they're going to see through this facade and they're going to see me for who I really am. Getting it out, speaking it out loud with receptive peers who are empathic is incredibly powerful. And you may well hear the normalization of many people going, yeah, I can certainly relate to that because I can and Rory can. So it is a normalization of that energy. And at its worst, anxiety can be absolutely crippling and it can stop your studies. I have known individuals to stop what they're doing, stop making a difference in the world because of anxiety that builds up. So it's very real. And we do need to take it seriously. So you've got that personal development group. The other mechanism, Rory's already mentioned it, is the fact that you would be journaling. You'll be journaling when you're studying. Write about it. Write about it. Where is this feeling? What does it feel like? What is it you're hiding? Try and explain it in as much detail as you can. It's another way of getting it out. And it's part of exploring yourself. And as Rory said, you're not asked to maybe learn about how you feel about the brick if you're doing bricklaying, but you are asked to how you feel about your emotions when you're studying counselling. So if anxiety is rising up for you, what a gift. Explore it. Look at it. What does it feel like? Because you're going to sit with clients that bring their anxiety. So have a look at yours and see what that does and write about it, journal about it, bring it to personal development group. And then, of course, there is a requirement, certainly in the UK, that if you're studying counselling, before you go into practice, you're going to do your own personal counselling, a number of sessions that are required by your course. And often we'll see in Facebook, why do I need to do this? This is a great thing to take in. Take your anxiety in. If you're already in placement, you've got a supervisor and you've got anxiety around a client, take it in. Take it to your supervisor. Pour it out. Let the light shine on that anxiety. The biggest key for me is having a strong why, knowing why. If you're listening to this, you want to go and study counselling. Why is that? What is your reasoning for that? Because that's going to be the key. because there's no anxiety in the world that will keep you from reaching that why if it's important enough for you. I'm doing this because I want to make a difference in the world, because a difference was made in my life from people caring and showing up. And I know that in some ways saved my life. It really did. So I want to make that same difference. When I'm faced with barriers and anxiety and other emotions that come up to muddy that water, I remind myself of why I'm doing this, because my why is bigger than all of those emotions. And going through those emotions is therapy. It really is. It's therapeutic. So that looks so scary and feels so heavy at the time can really serve you just by facing it and going through it. So you're not alone in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I would say is my final observation on this, when you're sat in the circle or in the classroom, if you're looking left and right to your other peers, you're probably seeing peers who have their own anxiety about taking the course. And anxieties can manifest in different ways. Will I get my skills right? Am I academic enough? Have I got enough energy to be able to complete the studies and all the other things that surround being a counsellor with what's going on in my life? So you'll never, ever be on your own. I don't think that there'll probably be anybody who's ever taken a counselling course that didn't at some point feel anxious. I think it's a natural emotion.
Yeah.
And I think it's one, I think if you feel it, it proves you care, because it's not, I'm sure bricklaying is a very respectable profession. And I live
I
in
can
a house
see the
of
letters
bricks.
coming in. I can see the letters coming in.
Yes,
Rory.
I'm a bricklayer, and I feel really insulted about you saying I
respect
haven't got a
bricklayers.
relationship with a brick.
My uncle's a bricklayer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I will say is that, without upsetting bricklayers or plasterers or anybody else of the associated building trade, is that I think that when you do a counselling course, you're more emotionally invested in it. And it's a way of ultimately helping people by looking at yourself. So I think that it's not unusual to have anxiety. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video valuable. For more free resources, have a look at our YouTube channel or visit counsellingtutor.com